When you get a mortgage, you have to fulfill an occupancy requirement which says that you are planning to live in this property for at least 1 year. That's what most mortgages say. But what does that exactly mean? Take a read. The FHA mandates that borrowers must occupy the property as their primary residence for at least 1 year. But what happens after 1 year? Turns out for most mortgages, you can kind of do whatever you want. So let's go back to this example. You go back to this $1 million 4-unit property, and then you rent out the other 3 units for $1,500 a month. Your mortgage payments are $5,000 a month, and you have to pay $500 a month out of your pocket because you're only generating $4,500 a month from your other tenants. You go through this for 1 year, your mortgage payments are only $500 a month out of your pocket because you have your tenants that are paying your mortgage for you, and then 1 year and 1 day later, you realize, I could move out of this property and do it all over again. And so now you move out of this building and then you move into a new building. You find another, let's call it 4-unit building. 1, 2, 3, 4. This time you want to be creative. So you move into the top unit. You move into unit number 2. Doesn't really make a difference. And then you rent out unit 3, 4, and unit 1. And you rent out these units again for $1,500 a month each. You bought this property for $1 million. Let's say your mortgage is again $5,000 a month. That means now you're paying to live here $500 a month because you're generating $1,500 a month, $1,500 a month, $1,500 a month. So you're generating $4,500 a month in rent. Your mortgage is $5,000 a month. You're paying $500 to live here, and then you rent out this unit to somebody else. And now you have an additional $1,500 a month in rent coming in here. That means your mortgage payment is locked in at $5,000 a month. You're making $1,500, $1,500, $1,500, $1,500. You're making $6,000 a month, which means you are profitable here. We talked about being profitable if you raise your rent to $2,000 a month. But if you move out, well, now you're still profitable. And now you can take the profits from this property and pay for the mortgage here. Because right now you have to pay $500 out of your pocket, which isn't bad, but you could cover that $500 from the profit that you have from this first property. And this is where it gets even more interesting, because a year later, you can do this again and again and again, as long as you're living in each property for at least 1 year and 1 day. Now I know what you're thinking. Well, Jaspreet, if I have to put down a 20% down payment every single year, how am I supposed to do this? Where am I going to find $200,000 every year? Well, there you have a couple options. Number one is you don't have to put down a 20% down payment. Now, I'm an advocate for you to have bigger down payments so you have less debt and more skin in the game, but the reality is because this is your primary mortgage, you can qualify for a much smaller down payment. 5%, 3.5%, 3%, sometimes even 0%. Because when it's your primary mortgage, you have a lot more options. The other thing that you can keep in mind, again, take this with a grain of salt, is that if you're buying properties in good areas, and property values are going up, well, then you can also do a cash out refinance to pull some of the equity out tax-free and use that money to buy another property. Because if you bought this property for $1 million, it goes up in value to, let's call it $1.5 million. Well, when the value goes up to $1.5 million, you can pull out $1.1 million tax-free. Remember, you bought the property for $1 million. You pull out $1.1 million, so you have all of your money back, and then you can use that money as a down payment to buy another property, and your tenants are paying that mortgage for you. This gets more advanced, and I don't recommend most people, the vast majority of people, to do this, but I want you to understand what the options are, because this is what some people do. This is how many people can get started with real estate without having to go out and buy their own rental property, because you could turn your home into your first rental property. And even if you don't want to go out and start with a 4-unit property, you can go out and buy a 1-unit single family house. It doesn't have to be $1 million house. It could be a $200,000 house. It does not matter. But the nice thing about this is you buy the house for you to live in. After 1 year and a day, you can move out and rent it out to somebody else. And because it is a primary mortgage, you have a lower mortgage rate, not a commercial real estate rate, which can allow you to make bigger profits, especially as you get started, because you're using the property first to live in, and then you're transforming it into a rental. And the key here is to stick with it, because real estate takes time. And now you can, if you do this correctly, work to stack the cash flow. That way you can start to build a portfolio of rental properties that start from places that you live. And then as you start to build more wealth, you start to see property values go up. You could potentially sell them and buy bigger properties. You can refinance them, buy more properties. Or you can just take new cash and buy more properties to start stacking the cash flow and start accelerating the wealth. The slowest part is the beginning, but once you get started, you'll start to see more and more opportunities. Yes, it is difficult, but it's not impossible. And for some people, this is the way to get started, because it's a whole lot easier to be a house hacker than to go out and buy a rental property separate from the place that you live. If you enjoyed this clip and you want to continue your financial education journey, I have another video that I think you'll love. All you got to do is click that button right over there. And for those of you who want to stay up to date on the top finance and business news, you can join Market Briefs, my free financial newsletter, by clicking that button below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.